Brandon Miller gets beefy. Doug has a lot of mock drafts, and Gabe Plotkin putting the hard hat on. We discuss it all today. Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that includes YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time? Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3. There's Doug Branson. You can find him on his substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. And there's David Walker. The beard is back, people, and so is the hair. Find him on Twitter at David B. Walker. I think my favorite thing that somebody said you look like was one of the Tekken characters. There were lots of submissions, but a Tekken character was my favorite.
Which one?
Yeah, which one?
So many. The robot?
I only know Tekken 2 like that. Everything else, I'm not as well versed in the characters.
I'll look it up.
Verse.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, look it up for us, Doug.
All right. Well, we'll see if, we'll see which one that one is. In the meantime, we can talk about our own superhero here, or fighter, I guess, if that's the transition we need to make, with Brandon Miller. I have to imagine, Doug, you're excited about Brandon Miller with his new offseason regimen. Okay, yeah, he's going to be playing with Paul George. He said he's going to try to get buckets on Paul George and also learn maybe a thing or two from his GOAT. But really, man, this offseason, it's all about gaining weight for Brandon Miller. He said that he's not really on a diet, but then he kind of contradicted that by saying he wants to put on weight, but the right way. Well, if there's no diet, then what's the right way or wrong way? Basically, Brandon just needs to get beefy, and I know you're going to be on Muscle Watch, Doug.
Take it from me, Brandon. There's no wrong way to gain weight. Actually, I mean, if you want to gain weight really quickly, just have a kid, right? Have a baby. I've never put on more weight in my life this quickly. So
good advice.
That's some advice there. But yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, that's what the focus needs to be on. He needs to get stronger. Obviously, he's going to work on technique and get better with his outside shot and all of these things. But he is so naturally gifted, and IQ wise, he doesn't need much work at all. He really just needs to get that body in the right position, and the right position is stronger, is bigger, so that he can confidently attack the rim, and that this new head coach, Charles Lee, can confidently go to Brandon Miller in these half-court sets and say, hey, kid, drive and go get me a bucket. That's something that he didn't do a lot of last season, and I don't think it's because he didn't want to, and I don't think it's because he necessarily couldn't in terms of just technique. I think it was all just I'm going into some trees, and there's some pretty big trees, and I think I got a better chance if I just take shots from outside.
Yeah, but he didn't really shy away from it. I mean, he had a couple highlight dunks. He finished a lot better than I thought he might be able to at this level a couple of times last year. But yeah, your overall point's right, Doug. I mean, he's got to be able to add that element to his game, at any point, right? So at any point he can do that. He caught a couple people sleeping last year, I feel like. And I don't think he'll be able to do that quite as much this year. So, yeah, but that's a natural progression. I mean, 1 year in college and, one training camp and one summer, that's not going to put on the weight that you need. So this summer is going to be huge for him. The folks in the front office, I think they got him a cake for making all rookie first team. He was looking for a fork. He's looking to down that thing. So, yeah. So I like him getting out ahead of Muscle Watch. The season's still going, guys, and he's ahead of Muscle Watch. So already thinking about it, already, out of that rookie mindset, wanting to get ready for next year.
Well, I do a lot of baking now because that's how I get rid of my Hornets stress. I did. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of baking now because that's how I get rid of my Hornets stress. So I'm going to send Brandon Miller some of my recipes. My pavlova. You just keep. If you
I thought you were going to send him some baked goods.
I can do that too. I'll send him some pavlova.
Don't do that. No.
That'll fatten him up good. But look, you're right, David. He did have some highlight yams. By the way, yams, another great way to gain weight. candy yams.
Yeah.
Make sure they're
and
candy.
Fiber. Good for fiber.
That's right. Yeah, well, it's a good point. You've got a lot coming in. You want to make sure that most of that can get out too. So,
yep. I was wondering when we get there.
There we go.
He did have the highlight yams, but a lot of those came in transition. And he caught a couple of people sleeping, sort of weak side, getting in behind the defense. That's where a lot of that stuff came in. And he'll have some of that. He'll continue to have some of that, particularly in transition. What I think getting strength will allow him to do is become more like Paul George, the actual elite 3-level scorer who can get into someone's body and still manage to finish around the rim. Not dunking it in the rim, but finish around the rim.
Well, and especially in the half court, because I think when we see him catch the bodies, it's in transition. It's when he's getting a lot of steam and there's somebody just standing right there at the goal, which is a great way to embarrass somebody. And I'm still here for all of that. I don't know if Brandon Miller is ever going to be able to blow by his guy in the half court set to get to the rim. And we'll see how much a part of his game, that skill set ever is. But I do know once he gets there, according to Cleaning the Glass last year, he was in that 50th percentile, which isn't bad. I think it was like a little below that, maybe 49th, 48th, basically average, which isn't bad. So can you get to 65 on a consistent basis with that type of archetype? Mm-hmm. And especially with the frequency is key. And I guess my point is I don't expect it to come with speed or quickness from Brandon blowing by his guys, especially if you're adding on more weight, right? That's not exactly the way to do that. But I think with more weight, not the speed, but just being able to bully his way. I wonder how much he'll be able to have that a part of his game, just getting to the basket, even if he's not blowing by whatever the primary defender is on him.
I don't know.
And getting to the free throw line, I mean, that's going to be the second part of it. If he's not making it, if he's not converting, can he get to the free throw line? Get some freebies there. What were you going to say there, Doug?
He's living the dream, man. I can't believe it. He's hanging out with his GOAT, his legend, the guy that he looked up to, and he gets to eat whatever he wants, folks. Now is the time to be jealous of Brandon Miller. Because, look, Brandon Miller, there will come a day when he faces, like all players, the end of his career. His body's aching. His skills have diminished. And you won't be jealous of him then. But you're going to be jealous of him right now.
Now he needs to eat what, Pavlova? That sounds like a COVID-19 pill. Pavlova.
Look it up.
Okay.
Look it up. Delicious. Or cookies and cream Pavlova.
Ooh, that sounds great. Now I'm on board. I have another thing I hope that he takes away from Paul George, rather than just some of the skill sets on the court. I want to talk more about that. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Tease me.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
No, I'm teasing, baby. I'm teasing you with some Pavlova and takes. Coming up next, I want to talk about what else Brandon could possibly learn from Paul George. We also have plenty of mock drafts to get to still on the Locked On Hornets podcast. Before we get to more takes and Pavlova, I want to tell you this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the tip-off, so you know that it is very good for procrastinators like myself. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Plus, check out all the deals they have. Not only do you have last-minute deals, flash deals, and zone deals, you also have all-in pricing, seat views, and the lowest price guarantee. In fact, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find something lower out there. Game Time ticket coverage is also something they provide. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL, Locked On NHL, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Game Time, more Locked On Hornets ahead. We were trying to figure it out. It looks like, Doug, you came across the answer. David looked like a Tekken character. I wasn't sure it was from Tekken 2. That's the only game I played as far as the Tekken franchise is concerned growing up. Do we have the character, though, that David looks like from that game?
Well, so
I thought I saw a dude in the back. The guy with the six-pack, is that when they're talking about?
That's okay. I don't think so. A lot of interesting characters. There's a guy with a mohawk. I don't think that's what we're looking for here. There's a person. I guess it's not a person. It is a tiger. And then, of course, Yoshimitsu is the one that I remember when playing.
Yoshimitsu was sweet.
Of course, yeah.
So maybe they're referring to this cat here, if you're watching on YouTube, the sort of main guy you think of with Tekken. It's the guy who has the sort of like wings for hair, black wings coming.
Sure.
You know, he's bald except for these wings of hair. But I don't think that's what they're referring to. I think he has a sort of a black. It's not a goatee. What do you call that?
A Fu Manchu?
Fu Manchu, I think.
So I think that's what we're going for, because in your beard is black Fu Manchu.
It's white, yeah.
Yeah. But it's sort of like one of those things where it's like a logo.
It's so true.
It's in the absence of it's buried in the gray.
Right. It's some blank space in there. Yeah.
White. Yeah. In the white space, there is this Fu Manchu that's
right.
building there on your face. So I think this is what he's referring to.
Yeah, and also,
thanks, guys. Yeah,
that character's hair is the exact opposite of what David's is. Like that guy's hair is growing on the sides. David's is straight up the middle, baby, right through the uprights is David's hairdo. So
send in your Tekken characters. You feel free to tag me at David B. Walker on Twitter if you got a good Tekken character.
Yoshimitsu.
Yeah, maybe it's the tiger.
I think this is what I look like.
Maybe it's him.
When I'm defending, when I was defending Scoot Henderson last year, this was me.
Yeah, and now your tail is between your legs on that. All right, let's move on. Let's talk a little more about the Brandon Miller Paul George comparison. Like I do wonder, okay, you can take all the on-court stuff. That would be great because there's similarities on the court between both of them. But I wonder if Brandon Miller is coming into the league and we're already asking if he's the best player on this roster. The LaMelo stands wouldn't like it, and I agree. Like I hear you on that. LaMelo hadn't played a lot on the court the last couple of years, but that's what Hornets fans are asking is where does Brandon Miller rank on the hierarchy right now of best players? If you go back to what Paul George did at the very beginning of his career, this is somebody that comes in with Danny Granger as the best player on his team. Granger, LaMelo, different star status for sure. But Granger was still a good basketball player, and he was the number one guy. The second year for Paul George, he finished 13th in the MIP voting, or 12th. Okay, like in the conversation, really that stat is just for you to know how much he improved. And then the third year in the league, Paul George wins MIP in the NBA. So he keeps ascending into this stratosphere where he is one of the better players in the NBA. But remember with Indiana, he had to be the leader for that squad so early and in meaningful basketball games. And I'm really hoping that happens with Brandon Miller. Like Brandon was a better player his rookie season than what Paul George was. I don't know if there's going to be MIP for Brandon unless he goes like 25 points per game. I guess they
don't do that anymore. They don't go rookies to sophomores anymore.
That's right. But I do wonder if there's any advice to be taken from Paul George on having to be a leader for a squad so early. And then also, I hope the winning playoff games comes along with that. Is there anything to gain there? I think that's something that I ask between this relationship that he has with his GOAT and Paul George. Doug,
100%. I think so. I mean, Paul George has been through a lot in his NBA career. He's played for Team USA. He's had a horrific injury that he has come back from. I hope they don't talk about, forcing your way out of a small market team. Let's just skip that lesson for right now. But, he did become the guy in the face of that franchise, fairly quickly there in Indiana, and then was a primetime player and, was part of like a league shifting free agency period where he was a big piece, right? So like there's a lot that he can pick from Paul George, but for right now, he needs to ask, okay, how do I fill out the rest of my bag? How do I proceed after my rookie year and continue to make me personally better? And then, if he wants to be that type of leader, how can he do that? I think that's invaluable. I think that's to have someone like that who's been around and who can tell him some things will be huge for Brandon because, there's not too many of them here. There's not anyone here that's really played in the playoffs that's done some of that stuff. So that should be a good experience for him.
Yeah, I think it's all about how he can leverage that relationship moving forward when the Hornets do get into that position, because I think David's right. That's where the information becomes more and more valuable. And it'll become even more valuable, many years from now when Brandon is reaching his peak and maybe Paul George is either right on the way out or or retired, because then I think he'll be even more free-flowing with the information. Because I'm always curious when these superstars take on sort of a Padawan, how much intel they are willing to release, because that's competitive advantage for Paul George. Knowing the scouting on these different guys and their technique and their, the things that you would use to get an advantage over guys, are they necessarily going to be so willing to give that up to somebody that they could be competing against? I don't know. Them being in two different conferences, maybe that helps out a lot too. But obviously there is an advantage anytime your young star can be linked up with another young star. And I think he has a relationship with Brad Beal as well. So it's all positive, man. It's all positive.
Yeah, he played on his AAU team, I believe, right? He played on Beal's AAU team. So,
yep, that's it. Do you want to go through mock drafts here? Do you want to give us one and then get to more on the other side, Doug? What kind of mock drafts do you have?
I got a mock draft from College Sports Wire. It's a USA Today property, so it's legit.
Sure.
And Detroit Pistons at 5. I'm just going to give you 5. Detroit takes Ron Holland. Klingon went. Risa Shea is gone. Dillingham is gone. And Sarr is gone. And so the Hornets at number 6, they feel a need for Reed Shepherd, the shooting guard out of Kentucky. And the writer here, let me give the credit where it's due. The writer is Andy Patton from College Sports Wire, and he writes, Charlotte could use a secondary ball handler and outside shooter to complement LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller, and Shepherd proved he can be extremely productive without needing the ball in his hands constantly while at Kentucky. Without plenty of proven depth in the guard room outside of Ball, Shepherd could step into a big role right away in Charlotte and help his team start to compete after years of mediocrity. There's your mock draft.
Okay. Yeah. Nice little insult at the end. Perfect. Let's move on. We have more mock drafts coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Doug reveals the results of those mocks, but also Gabe Plotkin puts on a hard hat, and renovations underway over at the Spectrum Center. We'll get to that also on the other side. Coming up next, Locked On Hornets. Before we get to the last segment, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. We all carry around different stressors, whether it's big or small. When we keep them bottled up, it can start to affect us negatively. Therapy is a safe space to get things off of your chest and to figure out how to work through whatever is weighing you down. If you're thinking of starting therapy, then give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can even switch therapists anytime for no additional charge if you want to. Get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Doug, rapid fire, hit us with all the mock drafts you brought to the table. You're still trying to make up for lost time after multiple episodes without revealing a mock draft. How many more do you have for us?
It's true. I'm going to give you one. I'm going to have to dig a little deeper here and go to sportskeeda.com. They always show
also
up.
From USA Today. That's so weird.
Ben Pfeiffer of Sportskeeda, May 17th. So a little bit of an older mock draft, but he's got Sarr going number 1 to the Hawks, Ron Holland all the way up to number 2 with the Wizards, breaking my heart.
Wow.
Dillingham going 3 to the Rockets, Nikola Topic going 5 to the Pistons. So number 6, a lot of players available here. Buzelis available, Reed Shepherd still available, Klingon still on the board, but the Hornets don't go with Klingon. They go with Matas Buzelis from the Ignite. They don't get the one Ignite guy in Holland, so they get Buzelis. He writes, Buzelis moves with the fluidity of a much smaller player at his 6'9" height, winning off the dribble with his flexibility, creativity, and length. He's a relentlessly aggressive scorer, always looking to punish defenses downhill and score at the rim and in the mid-range. Would you be happy if the Hornets went Buzelis? I didn't even mention him on my board, but I guess I would have him like 3 or 4 at this point.
Yeah, he's got to be up there. The thing I like about him, because I scouted him really thoroughly during the Rising Stars Challenge of the All-Star game, of the All-Star weekend, and he hit the winning shot over our guy Brandon Miller. He was not afraid of the big moment. But what scares me is, didn't he shoot like 9% from 3 last year? for G League Ignite. It wasn't great, but he says he knows he can shoot.
What's up with these Ignite guys? Nobody can shoot. What's up with these Ignite guys?
Oh my God,
they just don't work.
Well, yeah. So he's in the mix, though. He's got to be. I mean, a 6'9" guy. I know there's worries with everybody, but you got to get him on your big board at least, Doug. I mean, give him that much respect, please.
Okay, I've got the stats here. 26 games, 32 minutes per game, 27%, which is kind of right in line with Holland. I think Holland was 24%. He shot 27 on 3.5 attempts per game.
So not 9%, but also not anything to brag about. 27%, 24% for Ron Holland. Yeah, the narrative is out there. G League Ignite, they do not teach you how to shoot the basketball. All right, let's move on. Final thing for today. Renovations going on at Spectrum Center. Renovations started within the last couple of days. It's actually going to take place over the next 2 off seasons. And Gabe Plotkin put on the hard hat, had his Hornets pullover on, and he talked about how any organization that wants to become a premier destination, but also just a premier franchise, this is a big step towards achieving that. David, as someone who frequents the games, how excited are you about going to a newly renovated Spectrum Center over the next couple of years?
Very excited. Yeah. I mean, a couple of things that I picked up on in the improvements are, it sounds like getting in and getting out is going to be improved upon, because sometimes there is a major bottleneck. If you've ever gone to that arena trying to get on the entrance there, it is bad. Yeah. It's gotten a little bit better. They do what they can, but it sounds like they're going to improve that. The interior of some of that space looks like it's going to be a little better too. Some interesting ways to kind of be on the concourse, gather, and still see some of the game. More seats inside too, more food offerings. But it's time. There's some real dark corners of that concourse where you don't want to be. You hardly know there's a game going on when you're back there. So I look to see them kind of fill out those little corners and put stuff that, maybe you could spend some time in and do some stuff. But they got the bones, right? But they just need to modernize them. They need to bring it up to speed.
What do you think, Doug?
Yeah, it needs a fresh coat of paint. There are obviously a lot of things that they can do. I wonder how much of this your average fan is going to notice, because they are talking this up a lot. Reimagine Spectrum Center. So if it's just some improvements to the luxury experience of going to Spectrum, then I think, I wonder why they would be doing all this talking, because I think regular fans would go, they would see their ticket prices go up, and they would wonder what's going on here. So I hope you're right, David, that there are these noticeable changes. I don't understand why everyone had hard hats on and they knocked over like a pile of these like honeycombs. None of it made sense to me, because I look at these improvements and I'm thinking, are hard hats going to be necessary for any of these improvements? It all does look very cosmetic. I could understand if they were doing the practice facility and they're breaking new ground, but it was odd that everyone had hard hats on, although it did make me think of this sort of funny image of this meeting between Rick Schnall and Gabe Plotkin, where Rick Schnall is like, look, Gabe, I'm going to the NBA draft lottery. And Gabe's like, that sounds really cool. What do I get to do? And Rick Schnall just hands him a big sledgehammer and a hard hat. And now Walker is going. He's got something. I think he's got a prop here during the show.
It's a hard hat. Be a hard hat. Or a sledgehammer. Or a shovel.
Oh, yes. It's a hard hat. Oh, that is the hardest. Yes. Oh, that hat is so
with
hard.
His name on it.
I'm sorry. We were talking hard hats. Is that, you said they were unnecessary for some reason? I'm not sure why.
Wow.
I was wondering if
that's awesome.
They're up. Okay. Anyways, that'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for joining us and making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast.
Kind of look like a Boilermaker from your native land.
You look like you belong on the bottom of the Titanic.
Boiler Pete. That's what I look like here. Follow me on Twitter at Walker Mail. Listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3. Doug Branson, everyhornetsboxscore.com. David on Twitter at David B. Walker. And make sure you tweet at him your favorite Tekken character. Again,
yes, please.
At David
No,
B. Walker.
hold on. Between David's Fu Manchu, my mustache, and your hard hat, I mean, we got to start doing YMCA. This is YMCA.
All right. Bye, MCA from Locked On Hornets. Thanks again.